Okay, we are recording.
Okay.
Okay, do you want me to start?
Go for
Okay,
it.
alrighty. My name is Nico Whitebear, and this I have with me is grandmother Susan. This is going to be the beginning of our talking series, Messages from the Heart of the Mother. That's the name we're going with, right? Okay. And we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves, and then today we're just going to be doing a little bit of back and forth interviewing and see where the conversation takes us. Grandmother Susan, I'll let you introduce yourself first, and then I'll talk a little bit about myself.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Nico. So before I say anything, I just want to say how grateful I am that we have this opportunity now to work with you like this. And I mean that with all of my heart. And I don't say it lightly. I feel like this is a beautiful opportunity for us. And thank you for doing this. My name is Susan Kaiulani Stanton. I was born on the Ahupua'a at Honolulu on the island of Oahu in Hawaii. Um, I lived there until I went to high school in Buffalo, New York, and then I lived there and went ahead and had some children, two beautiful children, and moved back home to Hawaii. So the life that I bring into the world and the work that I'm doing now as a grandmother is bicultural. I bring in through my father the Hawaiian responsibilities, the sacred kuleana of the Hawaiian people. And on my mother's side, through her father, I bring in the relationship with the Six Nations of the Grand River. And in our family on his lineage side, they came out of the Mohawk Valley and immigrated up into Canada. And I never knew any of this because I was adopted. But it's very important to me that in these years that I have found out who I am and where I came from, that I share that with others by encouraging our teachings to come forward, and especially with the youth. So basically, I introduce myself in that way, but I also would like to add that I am a mother, my daughter and her brother. I'm a grandmother to my grandson and my granddaughter, and I am a great grandmother. Oh, and also one more. I can never forget her because I always think she's with the babies. I have three grandchildren. One is still little, but I have four great grandchildren too. So thank you with that. Thank you, Nico.
Of course, yes, thank you as well. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you again as well for bringing me in. And I'm very grateful to be here as well, too. So, my name is Nico Whitebear, and I'm from Buffalo, New York. I'm a mixed Mohawk. My mother has Russian and Western European ancestry, and my father's side is Mohawk. My grandmother is from the Six Nations Reservation. And I found my way to the Red Road through a few books. The first book was Rolling Thunder by Doug Boyd, and then the sequel to that, Mad Bear. And I read the books and loved them so much that I recorded them and posted them online. And then through that, I came into contact with Mac, who many of you I'm sure know. Mac is a cultural archivist and a writer and a content creator. And he kind of brought me under his wing and introduced me to so many different people. Mad Bear's apprentice, Michael Bastine. He introduced me to grandmother Susan, Ted Silverhand, and has been definitely one of the most important people in this part of my life. And I'm very grateful to meeting him and very excited and looking forward to seeing what we are able to create together. I was brought in kind of to represent the youth and have a voice for them, learn from the elders, and learn how I can better connect youth to the elders because that is definitely an area that we are very lacking in at the moment. So I guess I can kind of segue that into like my first question for you, Susan, would be, what do you think are some like the greatest things is a broad word, but like things that are separating elders and youth? Do you think it's just lack of communication or lack of understanding of one another? What do you think are some current things that are separating youth from elder teachings?
I think that's a really, really, really big question. I think that it's a multiple of things, but I think that when we look at it as three generations, the youth, their parents, and then the grandparents, that we have a bit of a disconnect along the way. And that disconnect can be caused by many things. We're rapidly evolving right now. And some of the things that we're going through are good things in a way, some of them are not so good in other ways. And so we have a lot of disconnects because of those. And I'm not going to get into too much more about it on that level, but I think that this generational disconnection has a lot of different reasons for that. I personally have a lot of experience in working in correctional facilities in maximum security, minimum, county detention, juvenile corrections, women's prison, that type of thing. And one of my most beautiful experiences was when a 13-year-old boy came up to me after I had been speaking in the beginning of my work with tribal youth. And he came up to me in the jail and he said, Grandmother, please don't say Indian, say Indian. Because if you don't say Indian, people are going to think that you're not native. And I just looked at him and I thought, wow, that is really profound. You know, here's a child who's helping me to step into a world that I didn't understand. And that's when I kind of shifted my thinking. So I think that part of that has to do with our being willing to listen to the youth, not just feel like we have all the answers, because I think that that can be a big turnoff to our relationship. You know, we have to feel that it's an exchange, not, you know, are changing their lives for them or getting them to be what they're supposed to be when really we don't have a clue. Am I making any kind of sense with that?
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, I fully agree. I think it has to be both ways. One can not only receive from another, you have to be able to give and receive. And yeah, no, I agree with that as well too. I think a lot of, not to like say negative things about elders, but I feel like as an elder, you might think that you know everything, and that because you have reached that age, you have nothing more to learn, so that you're always just thinking that you know what is best and trying to tell people what to do or how things should be. And youth can definitely be like that too, like especially like teenagers or something. Like they think that they grew up a little bit, so they know everything about the world. But no matter what age you are, truly, you're always a student to someone.
I totally agree with that. I really do, and I'm really grateful that you've expressed it that way. It's like when I'm out, like say last year, I believe it was, I was down on the Mississippi River, and there was they were having an event, and they'd asked me to come and speak, bring my drum, and so I brought a lot of different things, and I came down there, and when it was over, you know, I started taking my things back to my car. And this young guy, maybe 16, showed up beside me and said, Grandmother, may I help you? And I said, sure, you know, and I handed him some things. And as we were walking, I stopped and I looked at him and he stopped and he looked at me and I looked him right in the eyes and I said, why? Why? Of all the times that you could have chosen to come to the earth, why did you choose now? With all wars and violence and anger and the sicknesses and, the impact we're having negatively on nature. Why did you choose now? And he just stood there and he looked at me and he didn't hesitate. He told me why. And I said, well, there's your purpose. I said, I know people my age that are still trying to figure out what their purpose is. I said, you know why? I said, from now on, use that as your flashlight beam. So if you have a decision to make, turn your flashlight on and put your purpose as the focus for where you're going to go, and you'll be fine. And he got everything that I said. But I've tried sharing that with other adults, and they just think I'm nuts. So we have this beautiful capacity to connect together, the elders and the youth, as long as we recognize as elders that we are simply there to water their little seed, not try to morph them into something else. Sorry, here comes my boss.
Oh, that's okay.
He wants to make sure I'm speaking truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. He's a German shepherd.
Definitely. That is lovely. Yeah, I think that was wonderfully put. Thank you. And I think with the youth, a lot of them struggle with just having the ability to listen nowadays. Everything is so fast and they're so used to having things instantaneously in short little bursts that are easy to understand. And I think to really begin to understand what they have to learn and what has to be done, it takes a long time. It takes a lot of listening and learning how to listen too. A lot of them just don't know how anymore. And that's not necessarily their fault. They weren't taught properly. Like you said at the beginning with the three generations, their parents kind of fell off that way, didn't really teach them how to listen and learn and understand properly. And now I think a lot of them are lost and trying to find their way, but don't really know how. So I'm glad that we were able to be here and guide some of them on that way.
There was a time when I lived on the Gila River Reservation. My husband, Tony, was Pima, and he's passed away since, but he was just wonderful. And he was paraplegic from an accident that he'd had on the reservation swimming in the irrigation ditch. They didn't have public pools at the time. And, so they swam in the ditch. And anyway, so he ended up paraplegic in a wheelchair. And one day we were down in the juvenile corrections facility on the reservation. And as we were leaving to go out the door, I was carrying his things and we're heading out. And the couple guards were there with us to hold the door. And one of them said to my husband, they said, we've never seen anything like this. When you come in, you got 60 boys in that room with you. And he said, and you're talking, and we could hear a pin drop. He said, they don't do like that with us. He says, how do you get them to respect you that way? And Tony just looked at him and said, because I respect them. And I think that's really the key. When they know that we really mean it, that we're there as much to learn as to teach, that it's an exchange and that they are of value. They're the ones that are pre-wired. But the second part to that for me is we have such a huge responsibility with our youth now to help them to be able to evidence everything that they've been sent to bring, because they're going to be the parents to the children in the new world who are already thoroughly pre-wired for that world, not this one. So we've got this generation of youth that and young parents, even parents who have been raised on things like Ritalin, and other drugs that we were giving them so that they would pay attention and do what we wanted them to do and learn and talk and be who we said. And then now nobody can understand meth. Well, Ritalin was the gateway to methamphetamine. So really, way back, we were listening to the wrong information to begin with. So now we've got some major work to do to make sure that these youth now know who they are. so that they can help the babies that are going to be coming to them. Because I fully believe, Nico, that we choose our parents because of the lessons that they're going to bring into our lives. So whenever my daughter would complain about me being her mom, I'd say, "Hey, girlfriend, you chose me, remember?" And then she'd like,
Hmm.
"Oh, she's exactly like me. So, oh well, only
Hmm.
better," which is what you want,
Hmm.
So I hope
Can I
I'm
ask?
making.
Oh, no, absolutely. I wanted to ask, was there anything specific that your husband did to connect to the youth? You said it was at a detention center, or yes. So I feel like it would be a little bit more difficult to connect with someone like that. So was there anything in like how he met them or how he interacted with them that he was able to achieve that level of connection?
Well, first of all, he was very humble, and like I
Hmm.
said, he didn't go in there with the idea that he was going to teach them anything. That wasn't
Hmm.
his purpose. He was going to share what he knew, and then it's like you put it down, and then they would pick up what they wanted. That's how he looked at it. He
Hmm.
wasn't there to change them, but he knew that he had been given things, and he was going to put them down for them to look at and then see. Um, I will kind of, I'll just go off a little bit. It seems like it's off track, but it's really connected.
Hmm.
One time when we were doing Sundance there on Gila River, the elders would come and stay at our house. And so we had one elder, he was wonderful. He was Inuit and Eskimo.
Hmm.
Inuit and Eskimo. Well, Inuit and anyway, he was bicultural. He came and he was really quiet. And he said to me that he wanted to go to the youth correctional facility and speak, while we were waiting for Sundance to start. So I took him over there with me, and we went in the room with all the kids. This was before my husband had started teaching there. But this guy came in and he was wonderful. I just adored him. And I introduced him to the youth, and we were sitting there, and they just kept talking and laughing and back and forth with each other, and and ignoring him, right? And he
Hmm.
just quietly stood there, and they just ignoring him. And then finally he looked over at me and he said, "Okay, time to go." And I didn't know what to do, so I just stood up and we walked out. And as we were leaving, he just looked at me and he said, "They're not ready."
Hmm.
So I said, "Okay." So that's when I knew I needed my husband to start coming,
Hmm.
so that when he would go, he started first by teaching them the whole part about the circle and the medicine wheel and the stages of life and the seasons and all of those different things. But he wouldn't go on and on and on forever. He wouldn't overtalk them, and he wouldn't
Hmm.
overteach them, and he didn't go in with a specific agenda. He would just, share with them. And then, if they asked him questions, he would go in that direction with them. So they had as much drive for the process as he did. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
So then he would tell stories that went along this one. Want a real quick story?
Sure, of course.
But Nico, you got to listen to me. This is the truth, okay? This is
Okay.
true, only true.
Okay.
This is a very sacred story from his tribe.
Hmm.
Once upon a time, dogs could fly, and they loved it. They would get up in the air and they'd fly around, and they just had the greatest time. And then they'd come land, and but then one of them realized that if you take your butt off, you can really fly. You can fly so much higher. You can do tricks. You can spin and twirl because you've just left all that weight behind on the ground, right? And you did it with all your buddies. All your pack was there together. Everybody took their butt off and put them in a big pile, and then they swooped and they did all this stuff. And then one day they were doing that, and one of the dogs yelled, "Hey, you guys, there's a coyote coming through the trees, heading straight for our pile of butts. Come on." And they swooped down and everybody grabbed any old butt and just put it on there. And to this day, Nico, when two dogs meet, what do they do? They look,
Snippy.
hey, whose butt is that? You got my Uncle Charlie's butt. Where'd you get that? So my husband would teach a sacred thing, and in the middle, he'd stop and talk about the dogs,
Mm,
so that you're always changing the cadence. Is that the right word?
yeah. Hmm.
Changing the timing. And so and so when I listen to music that youth like, I hear that, you know, it's not just blah, 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 right? It's different. So I think that was part of it. And that exists in our culture. But we have to be willing to step out of our way and let Creator take over and be the voice, not the brain. Does that make sense? But we can still be the heart.
Hmm.
And you
That was
can't,
lovely put.
they know when you love them and when you're just, blowing smoke. They know the
Mm,
difference.
hmm. Definitely. No, that was wonderfully put. I hadn't thought of like incorporating, well, changing up the pace and the tone, like the cadence you said. I had never thought about that, but I'm sure that works wonders. It would definitely work with me as well too, and especially with adding humor. I think humor is something I often lack in like genuine like conversation like this, where I don't normally think to like make it more lighthearted, but oftentimes that's what people can connect with more. So a lesson to be learned.
No, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. You would have loved him. And that's our elders. That's who they are, and they're right here with us because they're invested in our youth as much, if not more, than we are because they can see the future. We're kind of locked into here and now, unless we can journey out into different places for a little while, but we're here and we're supposed to be here. But they're
Hmm.
all free on the other side, and so they can come and share with us if we're willing to listen to them, and then we
Hmm.
can share. But I think again, it always goes back to the fact that if we believe that we are there to tell the youth what matters, we're making a big mistake.
Hmm. 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 Do you have any questions for me? If not, I would be happy to ask you another.
Well, I just love you. I just, all I know is that. And I just
Thank
want to
you.
know, I would like to know your thoughts about working with this platform with us because you're going to be getting different grandmothers and grandfathers who have different backgrounds and different, songs to sing. Can we put it that way? Different
Hmm.
stories to share, different languages to speak. What is it that you feel we can bring to the youth from your perspective?
Hmm. That is a great question. I think for me, at least, my first thoughts usually centering around listening and like how we talked about before. So perhaps their ideas of being able to better quiet oneself and really not necessarily just learn to listen to like the words and phrases that someone may be saying, but to listen to the deeper layers behind the words, if that makes sense, and understanding the implications and how they can incorporate them into their own lives. I think it definitely takes a little bit of time, and but yes, perhaps I'm not wording that the best that I can. Kind of a thought in progress, but yeah, learning how to really listen to another person. I think if they can share that with us, I think that would be very beneficial.
I love that. I think that's beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to this, Nico, and I'm grateful. This is a dream. Can I share a dream with you that a
Oh,
friend?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So he texted me the other morning. I had just been talking to someone the day before because he wants me to find him grant money for some youth programs that he wants to develop. And we're down here in what it's like. We're going through all this governmental stuff right now. And I
Hmm.
tried to explain to him that grants may not be the way to go right now, because grants have a funding cycle. We could write it today. The money might not be scheduled to come in until September. If you want to get your programs going now, why don't you do some of these modules, out where people can see them and not look for money to come in right now? Because my personal experience is that if you chase money, it runs away. But if you start
Hmm.
doing what you're here to do, it will find you and pound on your door. So I said, why don't we try a little bit of that? And he just got very upset with me. And no, 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 he's not doing that. So we kind of decided that I was not the right one to help him find the money. So I was really disappointed because I want programs for our youth, and how do I do that? So the next morning I got a text message at 6 o'clock in the morning from a tribal member in a different tribe. And he had had a dream that he'd just woken up from, and he wanted me to hear it because it was really bothering him. And he said that he dreamed that he was in uh, a room with an auntie, an indigenous auntie. And
Hmm.
there was a young boy, a mixed blood boy, uh, over in the other part of the room. And he said to the auntie, why? Why is he not being taught, auntie, our ways and our teaching? Why is he not being given them? And her answer to him was, because the men aren't doing it.
Hmm.
And I thought, wow. And I just had that conversation just the evening before with this guy who got mad at me. And here is this other native guy having this dream. And I thought, something's speaking to me. I have to do this. And that's when we started working together, you and I and Mac, about the concept of, and I don't believe any of this is random,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
we must be bringing these teachings to our youth, but it has to come from people that understand the youth because, you know, I don't know anything about rap, and Mac keeps telling me rap. I don't know anything about rap, but
Hmm.
I'd love to learn, But so, so I think the fact that we're looking at a platform that will engage these two generations is just huge. But we have to have a desire from both sides. And you're the representative for the youth. They don't know yet, but you're going to help us to get it out there in a way that we can communicate. I'd love to see how that goes. I don't know how you're going to do it, but I'm excited.
I don't know fully yet either, but yes, it's definitely something we'll figure it out, and I'm very excited about it too. I like what you brought up with how the men are doing it. I agree definitely, and kind of experienced that in my own life. I definitely like lack in. I have a few great father figures, but I think still overall like lacking in like proper masculine teachings and just ways of being. I've had to figure out a lot of it on my own, and because I feel like what most go by nowadays isn't really what is best for themselves or for the world at large. It's usually very self-centered and unfortunately a bit toxic as well too in a lot of the behavior. So yeah, learning a lot of it on my own has is the main reason that I am who I am today, which I am very grateful for. But yes, I think the men definitely need to step up and begin to learn what is best for themselves and the world at large.
Thank you. And I think that we're in a race with time too. I think
Mm.
we have to really move forward. Can I share another dream I had?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, no need for apologies. I
That's what
love
happens.
dreams. I think.
Well, when you talk to the grandmother, you never know where it's going to come from, right? Okay. So one time, this work that I do with Grandmothers Circle the Earth, we go all over the world. And while we're there, we meet with women in different countries and different cities in different countries, and we help them have gatherings where we can help them come together and create grandmothers councils. And we go everywhere to do that. So one year, this is maybe 10 or 12 years ago, I was up in northern Poland, up along the Russian that area up there. And I was to the women took me because when we stay with them, they take us around and show us their areas that are beautiful too. And we don't
Mhm.
ask to get paid. They don't have to pay us. And but it's just beautiful. It works perfectly. They take care of us. They feed us. Different areas get together and buy our plane tickets. So it's totally just this beautiful, anyway. So we're up there and we're way up in this little tiny town. And it was really old and it had those buildings like those two-story buildings and a big cathedral and the town square, with bricks made of bricks on the ground. It was
Mhm.
really cool. It's like stuff I'd only read about, never actually been in. And it
Mhm.
was, I just loved it. Well, that night when I went back to the home of the woman we were staying with, I had a dream. And I dreamed that I was back there in that village, in that square. But this time it was different. It was packed with people and they were shouting and they were angry. I could feel the anger and there was smoke, smelling smoke. And I looked around and the square is filled, but I could see fires, like three, maybe four fires. And in the center of each fire was a stake and a woman tied to each stake. And they're screaming. And I didn't understand, but I knew they were saying witch, and I could see the priests in their long black robes and it was just so awful. And as I'm standing there and I'm looking at this, all of a sudden I saw something I'd never seen before. Next to each of those women, right there at the edge of the crowd there, beside them was a man, and that man was their husband or their son or their father. And I could see him and I could feel his pain because he knew she wasn't evil. He knew she was an herbalist or a midwife or, whatever, but she was not evil as she was being charged with. And I could see and feel him. And then as her body slipped, I saw her medicine pass to that man as she died. And then I knew that I know these men. It's passed from generation to generation. And not every man here carries it. But there's that one in the lineage who does. And they're the men that have that wounding, that unexplained wounding for why they are so sensitive and why they are so respectful to the grandmothers. I recognize them when I see them now. And I do a workshop called Men's Tears Are Sacred because they are. And I tell the women, if you're ever blessed enough that a man sheds his tears in front of you, then know that he trusts you enough to do that. But if you're ever close enough that one of those tears falls on you, then you are a sacred person in his life. And you have this opportunity now to bring that healing. And then, as they say, as we heal ourselves, we heal these generations back. As we heal the men, the boys, the young men, they heal back up too. So we're healing all the way back to the first fire, to the original fire.
Mhm.
So it's so much more, I think, than what I even thought it could be when I started recognizing this need to work with the men and the youth, you know, because that is that connection. The youth need the men. They need that now. And
Mhm.
so when we work with a man who's healing from that wound, he turns and works with the youth.
Mm.
And so then when we see them working, we know who they are too.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was beautifully put and an incredible dream. I couldn't imagine having such a powerful dream like that. Do you often dream, like have such powerful dreams in that manner?
I have them, I would say, compared to my other dreams, I have them occasionally.
Okay.
But when they do, when it does come that type of a dream, it never goes away and it doesn't
Hmm.
dim. Like my other
Hmm.
dreams, I'll go, wow, what was that about? Or what was that again? But these stay forever, you know. And then
Hmm.
they just fall out like at times like this.
Yeah.
Like, whoops, here it comes. Watch out.
Yeah. No, that is incredible. I don't think. Well, kind of similar for me. Every once in a while, I have a more powerful dream that I remember. I've been trying to work on remembering them more. I had a reading a few months ago with Ted Silverhand, and in my reading, he emphasized that I'm a dreamer and that I should work on better recollecting them. So I've begun keeping a journal, and it's helping a bit. Sometimes I still struggle, but yeah, I've been wanting to learn more about the dreamscape in general lately. So I appreciate you sharing that one very much.
Well, I appreciate what you just shared about Ted because he is really a very, um, I don't know I don't know quite what word to use, person in my life as well. And he and I shared a dream with each other. And within hours, because of our dreams, I ended up buying Eagle's Nest here. And
Mm.
all of the things that have happened, the gatherings and everything that came outward from that, go all the way back to Ted. So I feel like he's sitting there watching this going, uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah,
So we
I could
hear
see
you,
that.
Ted.
Yeah. Hmm. That is amazing. When did you first meet him?
Um, let's see if I can even remember. Um, I can never remember stuff like that. Uh,
A long time, I'm guessing.
Actually, that is a really good question. I don't even know how long ago it was. I know I don't remember. He's been here. He's been to my home, and
Hmm.
I've been, talking to him for years, but I don't remember when I first met him. So he's gonna love that one too.
That's okay. Yeah, I've only come into contact with him, I'd say about a year and a half ago through
Okay.
Mac. And I could tell on the first time I talked to him over the phone, and I could tell right away that he was definitely a powerful figure, to say the least. And I was very grateful for the time and the reading that I had with him, and looking forward to seeing him again someday.
I'm hoping that he'll come down here in May and that you
Mm.
see him then. But I believe exactly what he said to you about being a dreamer because I feel that and I felt that in your song when you first sang it. When I first heard that, when I was looking at I don't even remember where I saw it, but I listened to you
The
sing.
the first one I did, Wounded Lake.
Yes, I
Mm.
think that
Hmm.
was it. It was
Yeah,
beautiful. Just really,
thank you.
really touched me. So I believe that Ted sees that in you clearly, and I think that's really important. And I love that. It's beautiful. You're an amazing person.
Thank you very much. You're amazing as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
I think we got a little bit time. Go for another like 15 or 20 more minutes or so.
I'm here, whatever you want to do. Remember, grandmothers never run out of words. Ever,
That
ever.
is good. Of
Okay, can I
course.
say one thing? Can I tell you an
Of course.
experience I had? And I'm
Sure. Yeah.
saying this because I want to encourage any other grandmothers who are listening to me tonight and Nico, who maybe are thinking that it's time for them to step up and start to share. But it can be very daunting. It can be a very scary thing, and so I want to share this experience that I had early on. And I had just moved to Las Vegas, Nevada. I'd been there a little while, and I was new in this world of being able to speak. And I was invited to speak to a women's conference. And I thought, oh, yeah, I could do that. So they gave me a topic and they gave me some suggested references. And I said, okay, that's cool. They said there's going to be 3 speakers. There's going to be the first speaker who will be like me and have maybe 15 minutes or so. Then there'll be the big keynote, right? And then there'll be me. I'm the last one, and I get another 15, maybe, I don't know, 20 maybe, but probably around 15 minutes. And I said, oh, yeah, I can do that. So they gave me a topic, and they gave me some suggested references. And I said, okay, I can do that. But what they failed to tell me was that when I showed up a month later, that it was at the Las Vegas Convention Center. And if you've
Wow.
ever been there, it's just under 5,000 people. I had no
Mm-hmm.
idea. I'm thinking I'm going to be in a room with maybe 50 women tops. I was
Mm-hmm.
terrified. I didn't want to get out of my car. I just sat there thinking, I can't do this. I can't. This is crazy. What am I going to do? And I went in and I sat up there. I stood up. I went up, got on the stage, sat down, the 3 of us in a row. And the first lady spoke, and I thought, I can do that. I worked really hard on this talk. I had it all perfectly laid out. I could do it. She did it. I can do it. Then we had some music. Then the keynote got up. She stood up. She was this amazing woman who gave my entire talk and all my references.
Huh.
And I'm sitting there going, what? What? So my brain, between my heart getting ready to fail me and my brain wanting to live in Kansas instead of being in Vegas, I'm trying to think, what am I going to talk about? And there was nothing in my head but this giant vacuum. Giant vacuum. There was nothing there but an empty universe. And then it was my turn. So I got up and I walked to the podium and I pulled the microphone down and I said, as I'm looking out at the sea of women, rows and balconies and aisles of women, thousands of women, and I said, I would like to thank this woman for giving my entire talk and all my references. And it's totally dead silent. And then somebody starts to laugh. And then somebody over here starts to laugh. And then somebody up there. And pretty soon, thousands of women are cracking up. Because what's worse? Is there anything worse on the planet than a woman having nothing to say?
Mm-hmm.
Nico, it's awful. So I told them that I'm going to do the only thing I can. I'm going to get out of my way and I'm going to let spirit take over. And I'm going to look forward to hearing what I have to say as much as any of you might be. And so I did. And I barely remember any part of that, but it was about a lamb, this little lamb that we had had. I had met a Peruvian shepherd. He gave me 14 bummer lambs when I had a ranch in Idaho, in Utah, 80 acres. I had no idea how to take care of lambs, but I couldn't do it. They've been abandoned. They don't know where their mommy is. So I had all these lambs, and my son, who was 12, fell in love with one. Totally, that was his favorite. Well, one day they went out to play, and only 13 came back. His lamb was missing, and he was devastated. So we went out, we started calling him. It got dark. He was terrified. We got in our Jeep. We drove around. We're calling this lamb. And finally, I don't know, 1:00 in the morning, he was sobbing. I said, we have to go home. There's nothing more that we can do. We have to. And he said, but Mom, and I could see his pain. I said, now you know how God feels when we wander off from him. That's why we need to stay where we're supposed to be, because it's so hard. Oh God, you're feeling like that now. So anyway, this morning we got up in the morning, we went out, and that little lamb was back, but she was covered with blood. She'd been gashed. Something had gotten her, whether she'd been stuck in the barbed wire, whether it was there were mountain lions up there and coyotes. It could have been anything, but she was blood. So we didn't have any money. We took the little lamb to town. We went to the only veterinarian there, and I'd never been in to see him before. And I had this little boy crying and this bloody lamb. And I asked him, I don't get paid till the 1st, but can I have you fix her now, and I'll come back and get her on the 1st? And the guy looked at me like I was and he said, you can leave her here. I'll fix her, but then she's mine. And I looked at him and son. And I said, son, this has to be up to you. And I watched his heart break. But he loved that lamb. So he told the vet, you keep her. You keep her. I said, the only thing is we ask, please don't eat her. She's so kind and so sweet. Just don't eat her. He said, yeah. Go on your way. Go on your way. So we left. So years later, right? We didn't stay there much longer, but years later, I happened to be in Salt Lake City. I decided to take a little detour and go past through that little town. And I stopped to get some food for lunch, and I was standing in line, and I'm looking at this man in front of me, and I thought, I know that guy. So I said, excuse me. And he turned and looked at me, and I said, are you a veterinarian? And he said, well, obviously I'm retired. I said, oh, okay. He said, but yeah, I was the veterinarian here. And I said, I don't know if you remember me, but I brought a lamb in. He says, that damn lamb. I said, what? That damn lamb. I said, what? She cost me the best housekeeper I ever had. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, she knew that I promised you I wasn't going to eat her. And I was having a barbecue. I had all these people coming. And I told her we needed to fix that lamb so we could eat it. And she stole it. And I never saw either one of them again. So
Wow.
there. That's the only
That's
thing
an amazing story.
But afterwards, this lady from Deseret Books, which is this really big book company, came up to me and she said, we're doing a compilation, an anthology of talks. Could we have a copy of your talk to put in our book? I said, yeah, good luck with that. You heard more than I did.
Mm-hmm.
So you see what I'm saying? Long way around. Grandmothers do that. We have to go through our pain, through our fear, through the things that limit us by telling us we're not enough. And on the other side of that, we get a glimpse of that eternal being that we truly are. And if we can, as elders who maybe have received that understanding, share that with our youth, then they won't give it away for nothing, which is what happens all too often. They've had somebody maybe in that middle generation saying, you're not enough. Well, it's our job to remind them that they're all that and more. And that's the work, I believe, of the grandmothers and the grandfathers. So with that, I hope that worked. Sorry.
No, that definitely did. No need for apologies. That was a fantastic story, and I love that it was lengthy and took a while ways to come around. I will definitely always remember that one.
Yeah, I'm sure he will too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's all good, isn't it, Nico? Everything is good.
It is. It's always meant to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Trying to think if I have any follow-up kind of closing questions as we're kind of coming near the end. Do you have any final questions for me?
I want you to, it's not really a question.
Okay.
I fully mean this because I know we talked a long time ago on the phone and I don't remember much about the conversation, but I just know that as soon as Mac mentioned that you were, thinking about doing this, I was so excited, Nico, because I believe that there's no accident to this, that you are the one to be able to do this because you are a bridge. And the bridge people, they don't have it easy because they have to have one foot on one side and the other on the other, and they have to keep their balance no matter what. And when they're up there like that, they're easy targets, and people that are broken or people that are jealous or whatever, it can be a really hard thing. But I just never want you to lose track of the fact that you are who you are for a purpose. And that purpose exceeds any limitation that you may ever feel exists. And if you ever need your grandmother to remind you, call me. And you're going to a lot more by the time this is over. Everybody will fall in love with you. I know that. So
thank you. That means a lot. I do feel that at times And no, I absolutely agree that none of this is coincidence. It is all meant to be. I think back to like when I first picked up Rolling Thunder. Never did I think I would, in a way, kind of be a part of the continuation of all of those stories and such. And I definitely do think at times, like, am I supposed to be here? Or like, what am I actually doing with all of this? But you are most definitely right that we all have our purpose. I have my purpose, and it is to be here and to be doing this.
I agree. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you as well. I wouldn't be able to do it without you. That's for sure.
Well, and this is same. And you will be leading our future. You know, you'll be leading our future into this next place where we need to be to make those connections. And I'm grateful for that. Grateful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Thank you. We will do it together.
Uh-huh.
I hope. Well, I think that would be a lovely place to kind of finish up and wrap up the first conversation we've had then.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well, Susan. I think it was a wonderful talk, and I'm looking forward to the next.
We say in Hawaii, aloha ke akua kuleana, to your blessings of Creator upon your sacred work. Ahui ho, with much love and big hugs until we meet again. Aho.
Yahweh, very much.
Yahweh. Thank you.
Alrighty, I'll go ahead and end the recording.
Okay.